this is doing wonders for my
This,
fantasy team though with Auden.
so so that's the first thing everybody's going to hear in the Project Game Day post game show
Oh,
is
sorry.
Ken complaining about the fact that he started Cade Otton in fantasy football. And I don't know. Apparently, he's catching the ball here at the end of the game. Or maybe I guess you weren't complaining. You were pleased with the fact that Cade Otton was catching the ball at the end of the game. Who cares? Who cares? Hi, it's the Project Game Day postgame show. It is made possible by 1-800-GAMBLER. No cost treatment now available for anyone wanting help with a gambling problem. I'm Glenn. Casey and Steck are already here. Rita will join shortly. Femi said he wanted to watch the rest of this series. Then he would join. Although I guess technically it becomes a two possession game again. This is, it's only ever happened once where we started the post game show legitimately too early. And it was Rita and I the playoff game against the Chargers when they were getting their butts kicked. And we started at like the beginning of the fourth quarter. And all of a sudden we looked up and we were like, oh my God, it's a one possession game. What the hell happened here? So we've never been guilty of that, but it is an early start for Project Game Day as what was not looking pleasant early turned in to a laugher in the second half. I always like to start with first thoughts. So Ken, I'll start with you. First thoughts. I it was a weird football game, but it was more of the same in the end.
So it was funny when it was 27-10. I was actually talking to my son on the phone, and I'm like, it's really weird. It's 27-10 right now, and it looks like they may score again. And I don't think they had been playing particularly well,
Right.
but but how do you? I mean, this offense, and I give it to Moncton because he called a really nice game. I, you can't stop them with the way they're playing. You with Bateman emerging now as that legit number two wide receiver with what you already had at tight end. Mark Andrews is back to being Mark Andrews. I just don't know what defenses, the Ravens offense has to have a bad day for you to keep up with them because they scored 41 points today and it didn't look,
Right.
they
They
gave
were
away the
uneven.
first 10 minutes,
Yeah. They were
you know.
uneven.
Yeah,
They
they were
scored 41
uneven.
points.
And um, so that's my first couple of thoughts is like, you look up, it's 41 points. Lamar has almost 300 yards and five touchdowns. Henry has close to 200 yards rushing. Zay Flowers, who was your top receiver, in and out of the game, doesn't have his best game, but then you have Bateman with his best game is maybe a Raven.
Yeah.
And you got two touchdowns from Mark Andrews, who everybody thought was done after 2, 3 weeks, or maybe even 4 or 5 weeks. So it's just they're a problem. They're really a problem offensively. Defensively, a little uneven. You get the two picks and it changes the game. Hopefully, Marlin is okay. It didn't look like much on the when he went out of the game. I thought maybe it was just a jamming of his knee into the turf, but we talked about it on Thursday. They don't lose to NFC teams. They just don't.
That's fact. This is what they do. To add to that list of things that you brought up, Derrick Henry with like the most pedestrian, nearly 200-yard game that you will ever see in your life. Like he will finish with nearly 200 yards of total offense, and it was like pedestrian the night that Derrick Henry had. It's weird. Rita just jumped in, but let me go to Andrew. Andrew, your first thoughts from tonight.
I mean, it might sound a little hyperbolic, but I think this is their most impressive victory this season. Right off the bat, I'm kind of blown away going down there. I thought this was going to be a tough game, and yeah, it was a rough start for sure. But the way that they turned on the Jets and kind of just ran by the Bucks in this match, I was like, I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit because they've had so many the Bills win was impressive in
Hmm.
its own right. The Bengals win was impressive in a way because Lamar put on the cape, but also just because you knew that was going to be a tough one. I really thought this would be a struggle for them going down there, that atmosphere, just it's a tough team to play against. I really think Tampa is pretty good, and that's what makes this all the better. This offense, I kind of jokingly put it on Twitter, but I think we're going to look back at this offense historically, in franchise history, as maybe the best one.
Oh, I
Because
think this is, I would say that might not even be hyperbolic, Andrew. I think we might be teetering towards, if this continues, we might be talking about it as one of the best offensive combinations ever put together in the history of the league. Just the presence of those two dudes together in the backfield. I genuinely don't know that there is a precedent for what it is that we're seeing.
and it's not just that, Glenn, but it's also the depth of just dudes who can chip in. Justice Hill has been
Sure,
immaculate.
of
Like,
course.
Charlie Kolar with a big catch tonight. Like, dudes like that are also stepping into the fray. So you're not only getting an emergence of Bateman, and Flowers has been what he's been. Obviously, tough night for him. It looked like he got rolled up on or something early on, but like everyone is chipping in. There's three tight ends that chip in on this thing. I mean, Pat Ricard had a drop, but he gets his opportunities in this offense. Like, there's so many different weapons and different types of weapons that they can throw at you. It's extremely versatile, and it's extremely, I mean, they, for me, have usurped the Chiefs as the team you want to watch every week. Like, they are the most exciting watch in football as a unit right now. And that's just pretty freaking cool.
Yep, not arguing with any of that. All right, Rita has made her way over, and you want to wait? You,
No, I'm actually
no,
just pretty annoyed with this whole onside kick thing. Like, why do we keep putting Zay in these situations? He's not good at it. Stop. Stop. Stop putting Zay Flowers in onside kick situations.
it's a weird thing.
And I understand that this is very trivial right now, considering the score. But if the score is closer, I don't want to see Zay Flowers doing an onside kick. Yes, I'm pissed off right now because they should not be having the ball back. Okay. That being said, because no, I'm annoyed with this, y'all. Like, why do we keep doing this? Why? Stop. He's not good at it. Stop.
Rita, I'll tell you, in the first quarter, I was looking up penalty numbers because I was ready to come in here tonight and spit fire at this team's lack of discipline and everything else.
And we still could, right?
And we could. And I feel what you're saying, but this is like in the bag, and it's a damn good win. I hear you.
I feel. Well, you know what, Rita and Andrew, if this was a 1 o'clock game, I think we'd be a little bit more upset.
So it is in the bag. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like Mike Evans not being in is not huge for the Bucs.
No question.
And that this game could absolutely be a nail biter if he were there. But the Ravens got really lucky that a guy that essentially didn't practice at all and tried to give it a go could not finish, right? That being said, we can't change what this offense is and who they are. The defense is going to be problems. We're going to complain about them every single week. It's not going to change. And I've come to the conclusion of such. And I think that we just have to get acclimated with it because this is week 7. And if they're not communicating by now, then how do I expect them to communicate any better moving forward? This is a team that is going to have to rely on their offense to win football games, and you hope that this defense can find a way to close games at some point. I'm not thrilled about that. However, thankfully, the Ravens have Lamar Jackson, and this is a very fun team to watch offensively. And you think that Lamar, you look at Lamar and look, I think after last year, after the AFC Championship, it left a lot to be desired, particularly how they lost, right? So you knew that there was some growth that still was there for Lamar. But ultimately, man, like what we're seeing and the transitions that he's making and the corrections that he's making in season has been phenomenal. And it is just so fun to be a Lamar Jackson fan right now, or a Baltimore Ravens fan, or both, if that's your fancy, right? Like all of us here. So every single week. Yes, I knew that they were down 10-0. And I knew, look, it could have been 14-0. Thankfully, that holding penalty, was a thing. But I still never really felt out of it. I was embarrassed by that defense and how bad that they played those first 2 drives. But with Lamar as the quarterback, you're never going to be out of a football game, ever. And I think that is something that I'm not sure that we've ever felt this way before. And I love Joe Flacco. Everybody knows I love Joe. I love Joseph Vincent with all my heart. Won this team at the city of championship. But it does not feel, I cannot sit there and tell you that every single week I felt like there was always going to be, we were never out of it, no matter who they played. I never felt this way before. And with Lamar, I feel that way.
Yeah, and this again, like, this has been a good offense since Lamar has arrived, and yet somehow it's even better. And that's the part that we're still wrapping our minds around, is that, like, it's even better. This was good. Now it's better. It's crazy how that continues to go. And some of that, of course, is the presence of Derrick Henry. But as I joked about earlier, he had a pedestrian massive game tonight and wasn't even part of the story for the better part of the point where the Ravens put the game away. Like, that was really just Lamar doing Lamar things, and making magic happen. And yeah, I'm torn, right? Like, I am, because I genuinely don't know what to say about the defense. And I think part of it is this will turn around and it'll be a game where they gave up 31 points, and we'll look back and say there was an onside kick involved with that, and there was some goofiness likely late where they weren't really selling out because the game was so out of hand that why would you be going crazy?
Okay, but we can ignore what happened earlier.
100%. The first 2 possessions of the game, it was a mess. It looked like it looked in the second half of the Bengals game. It looked like it looked at times in the Commanders game, which was anything they wanted to do, they could do. That's the reality of it. Like, I don't know exactly what to make of it. I don't know exactly how to define and whether or not it really matters. And the question I keep asking when Femi hops on here in a minute, Femi does not like stopping watching games. He doesn't. He wants to watch these games, man. When Femi hops on here, I'll bring it up again. I keep asking, does it matter if the defense isn't that good? Is it fine if this is a mediocre defense with one of the greatest offenses we've ever seen? And I'm not saying I want that, but I also just don't know if it actually matters, because I think it's quite possible for you to win a Super Bowl with a mediocre defense.
Well, we've seen the Kansas City Chiefs do it. And here's the thing, Glenn.
Yeah, obviously not the last couple.
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the first 2 Super Bowls that they got to. They did not have a good defense.
No doubt.
And they didn't lose necessarily because of that defense in the one that they lost. They lost
the offensive line. Yeah.
That Tampa defense was nasty. And the linebackers could cover, which is why they won that Super Bowl, because they could cover Kelsey. Now, yes, you can win a Super Bowl without a defense. I'm just asking these guys to be competent. At the beginning of the game, these guys looked like they were confused. Why do we keep talking about communication? And it's week 7. What is the communication at this point? What is the communication problem that y'all have not fixed? I'm confused as to how that's the case. And then the touchdown to Evans. I mean, look, you running they were running a cover 2 there. Well, then they just put Godwin and Evans there to put the DBs in conflict. You gotta play. Look. Orr's not doing her no favors, but they're also not doing each other any favor. And Glenn, you and I talked about this last week on the show at the Fan, and I was saying, like, the Ravens could use a wide receiver because of a depth issue, and you mentioned a pass rush, but I now am on your side, friend. This team really could use another pass rusher, because if you are going to always be confused on the back end, then the front end got to be able to do some type of damage. And as of right now, I don't trust the back end because they don't know what the hell is going on. They over there talking, and then guys see that they're in conflict and communication, and they're snapping the ball. So I'm with you on the fact that now that maybe we do need an extra pass rush, and hope. I doubt that happens. But hey, EDC could prove me wrong here.
Well, yeah, and look, I'd still be interested in the secondary too, right? Like, I'm There's nothing more that I need to see out of Marcus Williams. There is no world in which I'm still waiting for an answer on Marcus Williams. I am completely fine with them saying, hey, we're going to have to do something more than this. Hey, experience the thrill of live betting with the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. Green Turtle Sportsbooks, the ultimate destination for game day excitement and in-person betting. Reeta, I'll let you start with I mentioned how pedestrian it was with Derrick Henry, despite the fact that we look up and he finishes with, again, nearly 200 yards of total offense. I know you were not thrilled with them going away from Derrick Henry in the first half. I've got theories, but go ahead and give me your 2 cents.
Sorry, I'm watching. This game is 10 points, y'all, and they're using all their timeouts. So they took their starters out. So I hope we didn't start too early. That being, because we said it was out of round, right? But it's 1:43 left, and we saw Zay give up.
I hear you. I hear you. I am not worried. I am still discussing this game at this moment.
They still get paid to play football too. They still
I
get
completely understand.
Play football too, and that's exactly why Femi ain't here, because he feels the same way that I do at this moment.
I know.
That being said, you know, I do have a problem with that. We saw this happen in the Bengals game. I could not understand for the life of me in this game in particular. So apparently they do this thing where they have Justice Hill come in, when it gets close to 2 minutes, I guess from passing situations, but you don't have to do that here. You can run the clock out, and you have 3 timeouts if you get close enough to score. I'm not suggesting that you not throw the ball. I'm suggesting 2 things: allow Derrick Henry to do what he does, and also let the time run down so that if you do score, you're not giving the team the other side, the other team the ball. So I don't understand why we keep doing this, why this is a thing. When the third quarter started, he had 5 attempts. I'm sorry, that's just inexcusable to me. And so I understand that, we want him to be a fourth quarter guy to, put teams out their misery. But it's okay to use him in the other 3 quarters too. It's okay. That's the part that I just don't think that I get. And in the Bengals game, they essentially went to overtime, get the ball back after, they missed the field goal. And then Derrick Henry has a 50+ yard run, when probably if you did that during regulation, you probably would have won the football game. I just don't really understand why they have they're hell bent on being, I guess, in a passing situation, which is why they're bringing in Justice Hill, because he obviously can pass block well, but you don't have to. You literally had 3 timeouts. It just made no sense to me.
So I don't know if anybody else wants to hop in on this one. This one is a weird one for me, because I get what you're saying. I mean, the Bengals game was also obviously multiple scores they had to rally back from. I think that was a different story. I don't know that. I do think that there is a sense of 1-2-fold. They only have 2 running backs right now, right? Like, they put Chris Collier back on the roster today because they had to have an emergency running back, but they clearly don't want to be giving him snaps. So I do think that it is determined to try to limit how much they're asking of Derrick Henry at the moment in sheer number of carries, both for getting through a football game when you only have 2 running backs, and also because you want to have him for the entirety of the season, and you want him to be Derrick Henry.
Understood.
And I don't know what the exact formula for that is. The one thing I do believe, I believe John Harbaugh when he said we don't want Derrick Henry to be a 30 carry guy. I don't think that was the plan. In digging around, I think that what happened in the Dallas game was almost purposeful. Hey, we're 0-2, and we're gonna have this isn't what we want to be doing right now, but it's what we're gonna do because we're 0-2, and we feel like we need to get this offense going. I don't think they want to be that team. Now, what that line is, I'm not sure. In that moment, what they were doing was working, right? Like, they did matriculate all the way into 1st and goal on that drive before the half. They just committed 2 penalties that backed them up to the 30-yard line afterwards. It's hard for me to criticize and say, hey, this was going to be a lot different if you had Derrick Henry on the field.
Oh, I'll say it for you. I will because
Oh.
sure, I will.
But what was going to be different?
I will. I mean, this is a team that is a much better run blocking team than pass blocking. It was unnecessary. You just
But they
didn't need to
moved
do
the
that.
ball. That's my problem. They moved the ball. They got all the way downfield. They got the 1st and goal.
Yeah, and then you turn around in the second half and on 2nd and 2, you throw the ball.
So there's one play where I would say, yeah, I would look at that.
Oh my God, is that what just happened? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good with Chris Godwin.
I saw him go down, but I didn't see.
It looks very bad. It looks very bad. I'm not doing a live show because most of our audience at this point is going to be listening tomorrow morning. But yes, as we're doing this, it didn't look good. It did not look good. And obviously adds the Buccaneers, who came into the night with, one of the more impressive wide receiver tandems in football. I don't know how serious the Mike Evans thing is, or if it's just, hey, he tried to give it a go and he couldn't, but he'll be fine next week. But obviously losing Chris Godwin seriously will hurt them. There is no question about that. Seriously hurts them to lose Chris Godwin.
But back to your point, look, Glenn, I listen. I hear you. I understand how you can make a case for it. I'm not making a case for it. I think that you need to find a way to run the ball there. Particularly, you're at the 10. He got to the Aguilar, I believe that's who it was. Got to the 10. Why are you throwing the ball? Why?
You mean on the final drive of the first half?
Yes.
I mean, I got to go back and work all through these plays. Were there 35 seconds left? Yeah, I mean, did Tampa still have their timeouts at that point?
The Ravens still had their timeouts.
I understand. I get it. You can make that argument that that's the spot. If they had decided beforehand that we've got to do something in order to limit the way that we use Derrick Henry, then I'll listen to it when it's working. All
right. And so, and doing that, Glenn, right? Based on your theory, so now they're utilizing Justice Hill. Well, so we don't care about Justice Hill, but we care about Derrick Henry. So you only got 2 running backs. You got 2, okay? And then, yes, you mentioned Collier, who, I mean, if he played, I don't know. I didn't see him.
No, they didn't put him on offensively.
So somebody's getting utilized. Somebody's going to be susceptible to injury regardless. And that's, I guess, my point. You know what I'm saying? If that's what this was about, okay, it's not that I don't understand, but it's also like, well, okay, so Justice Hill is also your best pass blocker in terms of, running backs. And he's also the guy that's actually getting your screen game going.
Right.
Good with that guy being gone, but you're not good with that
guy. But I don't think you feel the same tax. Like, I think there's much more of
obviously.
and there shouldn't be, right? Like, and I think we can say that's not coming off disrespectful to Justice Hill, right? I think we know there's a difference between Derrick Henry and Justice Hill. I don't think that if we say that it's disrespectful towards Justice Hill. It's one of these 2 humans is Derrick Henry. There is no parallel to losing Derrick Henry. You do everything in your power to keep Derrick Henry as much as you possibly can.
Completely agree. But Derrick Henry, nobody wants to tackle Derrick Henry, bro.
Yeah.
Nobody.
I agree. But again, if their answer is that's why we want to make sure we have him in January, I will listen to, hey, we wanted to come up with a strategy that says we're not going to use Derrick Henry as much as we had been using Derrick Henry because we want to do everything in our power to make sure. I don't know that that's the answer. If I'm theorizing that could be the answer. If that is the answer, I'll listen to that answer. I will hear them out.
Maybe there's balance that comes when Keaton Mitchell comes back. Because now you do have options there. I'm just saying you're effed either way. That's essentially my point.
Yeah, I can't compare. Nothing can compare to losing Derrick Henry. Like, nothing can compare to that. Like,
this team has been fine in years past. They went to an AFC championship without Derrick Henry.
I know that's true. What they're doing with Derrick Henry is unlike anything they've ever done before. Like, I will understand.
I'm not asking him to run the ball 30 times. I'm saying that 5 attempts in the first half is egregious. That's literally just all I'm saying.
And I would feel the same way if they were trailing, and I would feel the same way if they were in a bad spot. The fact that they were ahead, it's very difficult for me to.
They were ahead, what, 7?
They were ahead 17-10 at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One touchdown. Come on. And with 2
I'm not
quarters
saying
to
the
go.
game
Come
was
on.
over. I'm
Come
saying
on,
I'm not going to
man.
complain about what they're doing because it's working.
Yeah, well, now you're not because they got 41
Well, in
points.
the
But
end,
I
even then,
absolutely complained in the first half, and
Yeah.
rightfully so.
they were moving the ball at that point. They had scored on 3
And they
straight
also moved
possessions.
backwards with penalties.
In that moment, yeah, that part I'm not going to excuse. I don't know what's going on with Andrew and KZ. They're just sitting this one out. They're
KZ just letting us
they're
argue.
just-
I'm kind of in watching the game, and I had to turn off the announcers because they at one point checked with the Ravens to see if Henry was hurt. I'm like, have you not watched a Ravens game this year?
No, they haven't.
When it's the 2-minute drill and passing downs, Henry's not in the game. And I I thought I thought their usage was a little odd, but I go back to what Glenn was saying. It's like they were moving the ball with what they were doing. And, I think I wonder, without all the holding penalties that happened all in a row and whatever it was, the offensive pass interference, maybe he comes in the game and runs once or twice inside the 10, but he wasn't in the game, and then they got pushed back, and then they got pushed back again on 2 consecutive plays, and then they were just trying to throw the little screen pass to get back into field goal range. So I I guess I wasn't as upset about it, and the way they came out the second half with him is like, okay, you got a lead and you're going to use your hammer, and I'm fine. And they even played the clip tonight after week 1 where they said we didn't bring Henry in to carry the ball 30 times a game, and I think they shouldn't until the playoffs come, and then they should give him the ball 30 times.
Right. Right. And that's the sense that and by the way, the little bit of reporting that I did after they signed Derrick Henry was this is about January. Like the plan here is for January. That's why Derrick Henry's here. And we can always we can do this a million times. We can say, hey, they didn't need Derrick Henry. They abandoned the run. We can have that conversation. But I was to understand in the reporting that I did that they were prioritizing January, and that what happened in week 3 and moving forward had a lot to do with the fact that they started 0-2, and that they did not want this to be the way that they used Derrick Henry for the entirety of the season, because they didn't want there to be any risk of not having him come January. That said, you got to win these games too, right? Like, you got to win them. And if they were doing it to their fault, and if they were doing it and it wasn't working and they were losing football games, then I'd probably scream about it a lot more. When it's working, when they're scoring on 5 straight possessions, it's hard for me to get too worked up if they're doing it in the name of trying to protect Derrick Henry, which I think is critical. Yes, it is mercifully finally over. Like this thing that we started the postgame show 40 minutes ago, it feels like. Finally, the football game is over. The Ravens win 41-31. Make a trip to the game easy by saving the Easy Pass way for tolls. Go to driveeasymd.com. That's driveeasymd.com. Biggest concerns coming out. We mentioned, obviously, the Marlon Humphrey injury. We will need to get an update on what's going on with Marlon. Those are the 2 guys. We'll talk a lot about Rashad Bateman. We'll talk a lot about Justice Hill. But
how many snaps did Zay get after he went out?
Yeah, he played more. But I mean,
but he didn't really do anything else.
Nothing significant, but he played. He didn't leave the game with the injury. Obviously, as Reeta points out, he was there at the end.
Not doing anything. Just standing there.
Right, but I would just wonder. I mean, they still had him on. Yeah, they still had him on onside return, which is
yes.
And also,
he's the one that
he's the one that when Lamar lazily threw that ball, that one pass that Lamar probably wants back, that turned into
behind him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that was to Zay as well. But yes, clearly Zay. The stories of Zay is not the injury, but Marlon Humphrey is. Feel really good for the duo of Marlon Humphrey and Ronnie Stanley, 2 guys that have been through a lot. Like we talk a lot about how good we feel for Rashad Bateman, who has been unfairly maligned because the ball wasn't coming his way. and you feel good for him, but I also feel good for that group of guys. We gave Ronnie Stanley an ungodly amount of shit over the last few years because he was dealing with injuries and didn't look like the same guy when he was dealing with injuries. And yet, when he was out there, we all saw how much better this football team was when Ronnie Stanley was on the field than when he wasn't on the field. This season, we're seeing like a vintage Ronnie Stanley. Like this dude has been all pro level this season. What we've seen from Ronnie Stanley, it's really easy to feel good for Ronnie Stanley this year.
I
No,
agree.
it is, and you see how important he is to the team. I mean, to have him out in space throwing blocks on screen passes, that tells you how healthy he really is. And you do have to feel good about him. And we gave him a bunch of stuff, and we probably questioned whether he wanted to play football after he got paid and things like that. And he's dealing with injuries, and he's come back, and he's played really, really well, and he's been the anchor of this offensive line that needed some direction. So,
And yes, Marlon obviously before he got hurt, they needed somebody to step up and make plays. And for a second straight, time where they needed somebody to step up and make plays, Marlon Humphrey chose to be the guy that would step up and make plays defensively to get them going. All right, real quick, Project Gameday. It is, of course, brought to you by Easy Pass. Make your trip to the game easy by saving the Easy Pass way for tolls. Go to driveeasymd.com. That's driveeasymd.com. Our Super Bowl champion, Femi Ayanbadejo, had to hold out to watch everything. Femi, I want to get your quick takeaways, and we'll run a few of the things that we've been talking about by after that.
Yeah, I think Bateman and Justice Hill really carried them early. Lamar did a great job distributing the ball. I just want to see a clean game, and I haven't seen it yet. 3 weeks in a row with snap issues. I don't know what Linderbaum was doing. I don't know if it was Lamar. I don't know. Zay saw it coming. He shades himself from it. And then you have up 34-10 and you call a pass, just hand the ball off. Like, what are we doing? I don't know. Why do we got to make it so complicated sometimes? I mean, I know that Lamar played brilliantly and Coach Monken called a hell of a game, but the penalties and the ball issues just irritate the shit out of me. And I'm just pissed off right now. This game turned into something that the defense looked good. It was 34-10, and now they end up giving up almost 500 yards. Baker ends up coming out of it looking decent. Looks like Tampa kept it close. They're destroyed. And then another onside kick. It's just, I mean, look, it's a good win on the road. I'm just looking for that clean game because what we know now is the only thing the Ravens have to prove is that they can win a Super Bowl. The rest of this shit doesn't matter. It doesn't. And all I think about is how are they going to play in a playoff game? They can't play like this. They're not going to win in a playoff game playing like this. I know they scored 41 points. I know they had 500 yards. But if you don't take care of the football, you're not going to win a playoff game against a good team, especially if you're on the road. So to me, everything is about, can this win you an AFC championship game? Can this win you a divisional game? Can this win you a Super Bowl? And the way they played tonight, I'm going to be honest, you can't win a Super Bowl playing like that.
I don't have a problem with that. Broadly, I don't. I mean, somebody would argue they could have done even more offensively if they had really felt like keeping their pedal on the gas there late in the game in order to make up for it. But
you scored 41. That's not the point. I don't care about that. So you're missing the point. I need a clean game. I don't care. I don't care about how many points you can put. I don't give a shit about that. I want a clean freaking game. Period. That's what I want, and I haven't had it yet. That's why I'm irritated right now.
All right, so two thoughts. We brought up the first two drives of the game defensively, the first two possessions for Tampa Bay. Before you get into all of the other messes the game goes on, those two drives look eerily similar to what we saw in the Bengals game. Those two possessions look similar to what we saw at times during the Commanders game with this defense, and particularly the communication. Just the number of times there's someone like Rachaad White standing wide open. What do you make of it this deep into the season?
Yeah, I mean, I because I've gotten accustomed to that now to some degree. So it's like running backs running crossing routes wide open, guys getting free between the safety and the corner. Like it's just guys talking to each other at the snap of the ball. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know what to say about that at this point. Like everyone around the country knows this at this point, and they're still doing it. It's an internal issue. there's enough blame for everybody to go around now. Everybody, the whole coach, the whole defensive staff, and all the guys in the secondary. And I don't know if the linebackers have anything to do with it, but there's enough blame. The one thing I'll say is this: I love having something to work on, and I love that this is going to be a topic until it gets fixed. It's going to be a topic because what everyone's going to say is what I'm saying. Is this good enough to win a playoff game, and a conference championship game, or a Super Bowl? Like, that's what people are going to be asking, because that's all that really matters. And I think the points that you brought up and the points that I brought up, the answer is no. It's not good enough. Are you happy with a road win? Absolutely. We win. That's what we do. But we are on a road to a Super Bowl. We want us a Lamarty. You know what I mean? A Lamarty. You know what I mean? Like I did that. Glenn didn't even smile. He didn't even smile at my Lamarty comment. All right, cool.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get Griffin's attention to share this because somebody agrees with you. Somebody that that we all know that seriously agrees with you. Ed Reed was on the Manning cast tonight, and was similarly calling them out late in the game. Griffin, can you put that up on the screen, please? What I just put in the chat. This is what he said. He said, "Game over in their mind. They don't understand the other side of finishing and being a championship team right now." Which I
didn't say. I don't think I said that exactly.
But it's similar to that. It's that you need a.
Well, this is the thing. Lamar throws that backward pass, and like, I just, like, for as great as the offense played, like, that is a play you can't have. You know what I mean? And this is the thing. In 2000, we relied on our defense for sure. There was definitely games, and I think people underestimate like how many times we scored over 30 points and some of the good things that we did as an offense. Nobody really remembers that. They remember that the defense carried us when we didn't score, right? And right now, this offense could probably carry this team. And if the defense shows up in an important couple games, maybe that's going to be enough and it's going to be okay. And they're going to figure it out, I guess. But that's not really what you want. You want balance. You want to know that when your offense has an off day, your defense will step up. You want to know when your defense has an off day, your offense will step up. And right now, it's pretty much all offense right now. And I know that's a weird thing to say in these parts, right? Because that's not how we win football games in Baltimore, right? We win football games on special teams, running the football, and defense. That's what we do, right? And this offense is prolific. It's the best offense the Ravens have ever had in Ravens history, no doubt. But that's not what wins you a Super Bowl. So my thought is, every game I look at, it's like, is it championship worthy or is it not? And today it was not. Last week, I actually think it was. 5 penalties last week, I think. They played a really, really good team. They pretty much kept them in check. Offense did what they needed to do. It still wasn't a perfect game because Mark Andrews had that ball go through his hands. Should have had 7. They ended up getting 3 on that. Washington did. But my point is the game was cleaner as a whole. This game was not that. And it just seemed like the Ravens on offense were playing with their food a little bit. You know, they're playing with their food. They're pecking at it. They definitely probably could have put up more points, Glenn, and I hear what you're saying. But I need a clean game where both sides, actually all 3 sides of the ball show up. But let me give Justin Tucker quietly and steadily behind the scenes. He's gotten right back on track and no one's saying anything. So it's all here. It's all here. And I like to have something to complain about. I do, because I know if I'm complaining about it, I can't imagine what they're going to be saying in that locker room tomorrow. And guess what? We need that. We need something to keep us on edge. The minute a team isn't on edge, that's when Buffalo comes in and gets blown out. That's when Minnesota loses to Detroit. That's how San Francisco gets drug at home. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that those teams took it for granted by any means, but you have to have it going like 24/7 all day. Like, there's no gimmies. I don't care if you're a home favorite or not. Like, you've got to show up for 4 quarters on all sides of the ball. And that's my benchmark right now for this team.
All right. Speaking of playing with their food, I want everybody's thoughts on this. Up 17, 4th down, and they go for it. And they do, of course, obviously score a touchdown as Lamar Jackson hits Mark Andrews in the end zone. But is that crazy or crazy like a fox and exactly what a team should be doing to try to keep the foot on the pedal?
I mean, they should have kicked the field goal, dude. Come on, let's be honest. They
let's be honest.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
But I was sitting here like, oh no, what are we doing? I'm like, hell of a call. All right, good job.
Right.
Okay.
Well, but
no, hold on a second. I'm going to argue the other side of this, though.
Hang on. All right. Wait. Andrew wants to argue the other side.
If I'm thinking about this correctly, if you're taking it from 17 to 20, it's still a 3-score game. If you're taking
but 17 to 24 is still a 3-score game as well.
It's a different type of 3-score game, though. Let's be
it's
honest.
not
I
the
mean, it's a
same. Yeah,
different
it's not the
type.
same.
I agree, but it's still a 3-score game. It doesn't change the number of possessions.
I don't mind it. I'm fine with it. I mean, they have the
Yeah.
capability to make these kinds of things happen. So I'm gonna trust it. Like, you got to ride the hot hand and do what you can to. I mean, it's a damn good thing they did start to put the foot down at that moment, seeing what happened at the end of the
Well,
game.
no, no. That's not how the future works. When you change something in
No,
current, the whole future changes. So let's not.
You're right,
We can't.
Femi.
Yeah. So we got to be careful. We got to be careful.
You're right about this, but my grander point is, like, I want them putting the foot down when they have the opportunity to do so. Like, that's what this offense has to be right now.
I agree with you, but I think they should kick the field goal personally. I mean, that's my opinion. It's the safer call. It puts you up 20. They'll need 3 touchdowns to win the game. I still think the field goal was the right call. Hey, it worked out. You know what I mean?
Right.
But how often do you want to do that? Now, I do understand that it was the end of the third quarter, I think, when that happened, and it would have been
2:53 remaining in the third quarter.
So it would have been first down on what, the 4-yard line?
4-yard line, yes.
Yeah, okay. So they would have had them backed up. So yeah, it's not like, okay, I'm not like, hey, what are they doing? No, I'm not saying that. 60-40, how about that? You know what I mean? How about I meet you there? You're probably Andrew, you're probably 60-40, they should have done it. I'm probably 60-40, they probably should have kicked the field goal. But I wasn't like, oh my God, this is terrible. Yeah, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying at all by that.
And I think that's totally fine. I feel you on that. I'm ready for this offense to grab games by the neck because it has that capability. Obviously it's going to have to, with the defense kind of playing the way that it is right now and struggling at times to stop teams. I mean, I don't mind. It's not like hardcore Ravens DNA for us to think in this way, because this is not what the team has been historically, but teams can win this way. And especially as you're going through, like you said, it's a path to a championship. I don't think this is the end story for this team's defense. Like,
oh yeah, no, definitely not. But they're struggling right now.
The offense is carrying it. So,
well, how long we gotta wait? We about to go to week 8. What's the end story?
Rita, you got 18 weeks. It's a long
season. They can find it. They can definitely
having the
find
same
it.
problems from week 1.
But listen, they've also look at everything that's improved from week 1. We've talked about the offensive line playing better. We've talked about a lot of different things that have shown
on offense
since week 1. Well,
and then tonight we were told we kept hearing about how great this defensive front is against the run, and they got gashed. It looks like they're getting worse to me. I don't know what's going on. Something got to shake. That's all I know. Something got to shake.
So
yeah, I blame the offense for this comeback, though. I do, because that play, that backwards pass by Lamar to Zay, where they just seemed like they were all just kind of like discombobulated. That it was 34-10 at that point. Technically, you should have ran the ball. Just hand the ball to the guy in the I formation. That's all you had to do at that point. You're up by 24. I don't need a quick screen, because guess what? The minute you put the ball in the air, only bad things can happen at that point. Like, just hand the ball off. I'd rather have you go 3 and out and punt it and make them go 90. You know what I mean? But instead, you're up 34-10. Defense is chilling. They're thinking like, damn, they're about to just run this clock down to probably 7-8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They're probably going to score here. It's going to be 41-10. Shoot, they're going to come out nothing. It's going to be game over at that point. I blame the offense for this comeback, honestly. I don't blame the defense. You can't leave your defense on the field for 70, 75, 80 plays. Like, that's not how it works. Like, the goal last year, why was the defense so good? Because they were fresh. You know what I mean?
And also
they get on the field
too. Femi.
Yeah.
Also special teams.
I don't think special teams was bad tonight. I don't.
No, I'm talking about the onside kick.
Oh yeah, that ball just listen. No, that ball was just. If that's going to happen once every season, that ball hit the right high. Honestly, the defense is going to get that one. Like, the offense couldn't have done anything about that. But the kickoff return team, hands team, couldn't have done anything about that. Perfect kick by the kick man. My point is, though, is that
Zay is there, though. Why do we keep putting Zay in?
Because he has hands. Like, that's why he's there.
This is the second time he's not done it.
No, okay, look, you got to trust me on this hands thing. Like, the hands thing is a roll of the dice. It doesn't work most of the time. Weird things happen. You shouldn't even be in that position, is my point. You know what I mean? Like, in the Dallas game, they shouldn't even been in that position. Because when you take it to chance, a 1 in 10, a 1 in 15, a 1 in 50, it's gonna happen eventually. And guess what? It's happened to them twice now. And I don't think it's the hands team's fault. I think it's the fact that they're even in hands at that time of the game. They shouldn't even be in that position. And if they just run the ball and they don't get cute on some backwards pass, we're not even having this conversation. None of this even happens.
I do agree with that.
So, Femi, first of all, I need you to tell everybody about BetYard AI.
Oh, yeah. BetYardAI.com. Come check us out. We're doing NFL predictions. We're doing the point total and the spread. We absolutely murdered it this week. 7 of 9 on our high confidence picks. And actually, I think we had the Ravens and Arizona tonight to cover. And it looks like so far, I don't know about the Arizona game. They were covering. I think the Chargers were favored. Yeah, the Chargers were favored in that game, I think, by 2, I believe. I think they were going into it. But I think Arizona was up. Are they still up?
I'm double checking.
Arizona's down by 1, but they're in field goal range late, and they're going to cover. It's 15-14.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So they're going to cover, and then like I said, the Ravens covered tonight too. So man, we had a heck of a week. Come check us out. Go to BetYardAI.com. Your first week is free, and with our performance guarantee, if we're under 50%, or if we're 50% or under on our predictions for the week with our high confidence picks, you get the next week free. So BetYardAI.com.
And that's, of course, after what was a big week last week for BetYard AI. Seems like it's a trend at this point.
The last 3 weeks have been really, really good.
Yeah.
Really good. So.
Seems like that's the case. All right, before I get to the comments, Femi, the other topic that we really dove into was them seeming to get away from Derrick Henry in the second and early on in the third quarters.
I don't actually agree with that. Where the game was, it just happened to be packages for Justice Hill. And if you notice, they converted on a lot of third down stuff. Guess who's in on third down? It's Justice Hill. And Justice Hill's balling. And Derrick Henry, this is the thing. If you look at the totality of the game, you did exactly what you're supposed to do. Derrick does a little bit, right? Does his thing a little bit. And then what happens in the fourth quarter? He just takes over. Look at my dude's stat line at the end. Do you want him to spread that out over 4 quarters, or do you want to win the game and have him do what he did? I'll take what he did. And I really don't think it wasn't a purposeful thing to keep him on the sideline. It was down distance and personnel that led to that. So I've heard people saying that, but as a person who understands this, I know what they were doing, and I was 1,000% certain in the third and fourth quarter, when it counted, Derrick Henry was going to have the ball in his hand, was going to end up with over 100 yards, and he did.
So I asked this because we brought this up. I have wondered. Here's 2 things that I will tell you based on some reporting that I've done. One, when they signed Derrick Henry, I had somebody within the organization say, "Dude, this is about January specifically. Not to say that they aren't going to use him, but this is about January." And then I had a follow up just a couple of weeks ago that said what John Harbaugh said in the preseason. We said, we don't want Derrick Henry to be a 30 carry a guy game. He meant that. That was the strategy for this team. They changed that a little bit because they started 0-2. What they did in the Dallas game, they weren't intending for that to be the way that they were using Derrick Henry. They did some of that. Apparently, that was something that was acknowledged in one of the broadcasts recently. They gave that to one of the broadcasters during one of those Saturday night and I don't remember which one it was, but that was what I was told, was that they gave that information to somebody. I have wondered if there wasn't a purposeful thought to, we don't want the numbers to be 25 plus every game. We don't think that's the correct way for this to go in order to have the best version of Derrick Henry in January.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And the bottom line is he's been averaging 20 carries a game. 20 is not 30. 20 is 2/3 of 30. It's not 30. You know what I mean? 20 is closer to 15 than 30. You know what I mean? So I just think people are just bored of shit, and they just need something to talk about. The bottom line is that they didn't use him appropriately the first 2 games. They've been using him perfectly the last 5 games. You know what I mean?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, and he's been closing games out in the fourth quarter when it counts. So, I'm not really sure what are we good? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know if I don't have.
I would. And this is
before you. I said what I had to say before you came on, Femi. I'm just not going to repeat it.
Okay.
I think when Reeta and I were going back about it, if they were struggling, if the offense was sluggish in those moments, I would say the hell with what the thought process is. Get Derrick Henry on the field and get this thing going. But they weren't.
The offense. There's no problem on offense. And,
right.
And the guy that's in when Derrick's not is Justice Hill. The dude is balling. What do we? You know what I mean? I'm good. I'm good with Justice Hill getting his touches. He's earned that, and it's going to be better for Derrick in the long run. And the truth of the matter is, I don't care what happens in the first and second quarter. I care what happens in the fourth quarter. I care about what the final outcome is. And the Ravens, again, rushed for 270 yards tonight? You know what I mean? Do we want Derrick to have 220, 240? I don't, you know what I mean? Where do we have some lens of today and the rest of the season. Like we're in week 7, right? We have 11 more weeks to go, not counting playoffs.
Yep.
So what they're doing right now is exactly what they need to be doing. Now, my only problem is, if I'm going to bring up one, is like I said, they get too cute sometimes. You know what I mean? That's my only issue. And I texted that to you guys. And I even said, like, hey,
Yeah,
Derek
we
needs
agreed
more
on
touches.
that.
Yeah,
We agreed on that.
I said Derek needed more touches, but I knew they would make up for it in the second half for sure. But I also recognized the flow of the game and the personnel packages they had in there and what was working on offense. Like, I also see that too. I can't forget that part of it. The offense is not the problem. These dudes had 500 yards and put up 41 points. We shouldn't even be talking about the offense. The only thing I want fixed are 3 things. Less freaking penalties. Let's get this snap to Lamar where it's not fumbled, dropped, or snapped at the wrong time. And let's not do cute shit. That's it. I'm good. The rest of it is 1,000% best offense in Ravens history. I'm good. The defense, shit, we got some stuff to talk about.
All right, let's get there because most of the comments are about the defense, as you wouldn't be surprised. Hey, join us for the Arthur Millette Show. That's not, I don't know, it's 11:47 p.m., so it's still 2 nights from now. It is Wednesday night. We will be at the Gourmet at the Shops at Kenilworth in Towson. Come hang out with Arthur and his special guest. Unfortunately, it was no Arthur tonight, but I guess that means we now know it will be Sunday because they have to activate him this week. So he'll be back this week for that. Well, you can find out more about the Arthur Millette Show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Millette, but Wednesday night at the Shops at Kenilworth. All right, to the comments from Justin. We won't beat Kansas City with this defense. No way. Well, ironically, it's not Kansas City's offense that's the juggernaut at this point.
Yeah.
Like it's not their offense that you really fear any longer. Although I get it, Patrick Mahomes is still breathing, and he's still capable, as we saw yesterday, of doing things that other human beings can't do. But in general, I get it, right? Like, I think that this is the totality of what you're talking about. Like, is this good enough to win a Super Bowl? I don't know, Femi. This is the part I struggle with. I brought it up earlier. Not every team that wins the Super Bowl has a great defense.
That's not what I'm saying though. We don't need a great defense to win Super Bowl. We need to play a clean game. No stupid penalties, no turnovers, and just no dumb stuff. Like, if an offense earns 20 points on you, awesome. I think if you can give up 20 points, you can win a Super Bowl. They didn't give up 20 points tonight. They gave up 31. And the offense had a role in that, actually. You know what I mean?
Right.
My point is, if you play a clean game, the Ravens are almost unbeatable. If you take care of the football, if you stop the run like you're supposed to, you can give up yards. I'm not worried about yards. I care about points. And I care about dumb penalties, and I care about discipline. Right now, they are not disciplined enough consistently from Q1 to Q4 in all their games in regard to penalties. And we have these miscues that lead to snowballs like this that happened tonight at the end of the game. And we can't have those. If you get rid of those with this defense, you can definitely win a Super Bowl. But it's got to be a clean game. And we have not seen a clean game yet. There hasn't been one. Although they've had some very awesome wins and some very impressive wins, they still have not played that clean game that I'm looking for.
Sam, they must acquire a pass rusher at the deadline. It's pivotal to this defense's success. Reeta just said she's now on my side, that if you do make one move, pass rush is the area to make it. Where are you with this, Femi?
I totally agree. I was thinking about this all game. I'm like, they got some nice guys that rush, and when they win, it's awesome. But I don't feel like they get there enough. And who was it? Was it Ray Lewis that I saw talking about, like,
yeah, he did a video. Yeah.
He was talking about it's about the front seven. He's like, look, it's not about the back end. He said it's about the front end. And if we do our job up front, the back end just does what they do. You know what I mean? And I know what Ray meant. Like, I know he takes pride in his linebacker position and the guys in front of him, and they feel like it's on us to win a game. And he was being very courteous. But in today's game, you need the back end to communicate, and you need them to make tackles and disrupt and get interceptions like Marlon did tonight. You know, if you give up plays, cool. As long as guys know where they're supposed to be, and you don't just have guys running free, and you can make up for it with a fumble recovery, and interception, then you're good to go. But you can't have dudes running free, and you have penalties, and dudes are scoring touchdowns. Like, you can't do all that, and you're not getting to the quarterback enough. You know what I mean? You're not creating enough pressure. Now, I admit, I mean, let's look at the quarterbacks the Ravens have played. They've played some good ones. You know what I mean? Some really good ones. So and to be honest, I'm so focused on week to week, I don't even look ahead. Like, I didn't even know they played the Browns until like an hour ago. Right. You know what I mean? Next week, I had no idea. That's how I'm looking at this this crazy schedule that they're playing. It's the toughest in football, at least going into the season it was, and it has been. So they'll be battle tested, no doubt. They'll be resilient mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, no doubt. But I still need that clean game. When I see that clean game, then I'll say, Glenn, I got that clean game. And it could be 17-10. It could be 17-13. As long as it's clean,
I get it.
I'll be happy.
It does feel like that the next two games that they have could potentially try to help this defense out, because I gotta assume Dorian Thompson-Robinson is potentially starting Sunday, even though they're gonna activate Jameis.
Jameis is gonna start.
Huh?
Jameis is gonna start. Dorian has a hurt thumb or whatever.
Oh, so he got hurt. Okay. Well, but Jameis knows how to give it up to, and there's that part. Then you got Bo Nix the next week against Denver. So you do get a break before you get the Bengals on Thursday night. But ultimately, we shouldn't be having this conversation, it feels like. I understand that you've played against a lot of elite quarterback play up until this point, but it still feels like it's just not. It's coming together in spurts, right, with the Buffalo game. And then they played well last week, but it's not consistent enough for us to be like, oh, well, they get a break with lesser quarterbacks for 2 weeks before Joe Burrow comes into town. And
who said that though? I don't think they get a break at all. I think Jameis is going to be nasty.
They said it on the broadcast. They mentioned it on the broadcast that they had, that they had the Browns and then the Bengals.
Yeah, before. I feel like I feel like Denver is good. Like Denver is like, they're an ascending team. And their defense is for real.
Their defense is nasty. Yeah, for sure.
And Bo Nix is an athlete now. You know what I mean? Like he'll be erratic, like if he doesn't get his feet set. But like Duke can play football. He can play football. Like I'm not saying he's an elite quarterback, but he can play football. You know what I mean? So I don't really see a break anywhere. Honestly, like I don't know what's after those two games, but I don't really see a game where I'm like, oh, that's going to be. I thought the Raiders were that game. You know what I mean? I thought that's who
that was the one. That was the one. That was the one.
Excuse me, Gardner Minshew was the quarterback. We should have known better.
And Gardner Minshew's got the Ravens number. Experience the thrill of live betting with the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. Green Turtle Sportsbooks, the ultimate destination for game day excitement and in-person betting. I present it this way because, look, when we bring up that we're all talking about the idea of going after edge rush, so, there's the pie in the sky. You take Hassan Reddick. Oh, there's good news. The John Harbaugh says that Marlon is optimistic the Marlon Humphrey's knee injury isn't too serious. Walking around the locker room fine per Harbaugh, but will undergo more tests on Tuesday. Hopefully that is the case, as clearly Marlon Humphrey has stepped up these last few weeks and been the playmaker that we remember Marlon Humphrey to be. He's been that dude. But with Hassan Reddick now off the list, presumably, although maybe the Jets turn around and bag out of this in a couple of weeks.
Reddick does after last night.
Right. It changes his mind. But with him off the board, the names are like the pie in the sky names. Like Myles Garrett's name was floating around today, and Max Crosby name floats around. Yeah. The likelihood of that being what the Ravens do is always going to be very, very slim. But if it's not that, I guess the question is the answer? There was a report today that they poked back in on Zadarius Smith, and I don't know about the Browns' appetite for making a trade in the division, but in fairness, the Browns are their cheeks, so maybe they kind of don't care at this point if they'd be helping out a division team. I don't know about that, but I guess the question would be: is it worth making a secondary move? Do you have the Zadarius Smiths that if that's what you're going to do, you might as well work with the guys that you have?
Yeah, I agree. If it's not Max Crosby, then forget about it. There's no one else out there, dude. There's nobody that's going to move the needle for me unless I'm forgetting somebody or somebody else that becomes available out of the blue. I just don't know who else there would be.
Yeah, and I just don't see it with Garrett. Like that's where I think the division thing matters. Like the Browns, even if they trade Garrett,
plus what's he getting paid though? Like I don't see Myles Garrett, no way. And to be honest, I feel like Max Crosby would be a hell of a Raven. Like he's got that DNA in him. You know what I mean? I don't know what Max is making right now. But
it's not, the numbers are not undoable. It would just require an awful lot of work for this year's, even at a prorated number this year, because the cap figure was like $30 million and the Ravens have like $5 million worth of cap space. So they'd have to do even the prorated number would be a problem for them. But like, it can be done. You just got to start doing the work now, obviously cap wise, in order to make that feasible. But It ain't easy. You don't have the room simply. You got to go get the room in order to be able to do it. Let me go back to the comments real quick as we're winding down here for the Project Game Day post game show. Okay, we mentioned obviously we saw the Chris Godwin injury. Thoughts on the Bengals still having their starters out there at that point? I had forgotten
The Bengals.
about
Bucks.
sorry, the Bucks. Yeah, look, man, it's midnight. I had forgotten about you can only try. This is so stupid. You're only allowed to try 2 onside kicks in a half. That's an actual rule now in the NFL. You're
correct.
not
Good.
if they had scored again, they wouldn't have been allowed to try another onside kick. So at that point, the game was over.
Do you know only 2 onside kicks have worked this whole season?
And they're both against the
They're both
Ravens.
against the Ravens.
So
Yep.
so I
No,
mean,
it's
like, what are
nutty.
the
It's
odds?
nutty, right.
Like, you have you. I mean, that's got to be like a lottery ticket, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be anyway.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, a lot of criticism towards the Bucks for even having Chris Godwin on the field at that point.
I mean, the bottom line is the chances of them winning were not good.
Okay, apparently that rule might have been they might have taken that part of the rule out, and you can keep trying onside kicks.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it was a proposal. Got it. Thank you. This is from Peter Schrager. Thank you, Andrew. It was proposed that the rule have a limit of 2, but that part of the rule was not passed. So there you go.
Oh,
All right.
learned something new today.
Yeah, right. Anyway, sorry, Femi. I'm sorry. I'm stepping all over you.
No, it's all good. I just feel like, when you're down by that much and you put there's a price to pay for playing with that type of reckless abandon, and there's always a potential for an injury. You know what I mean? And then you ask yourself, is that one game worth losing a guy like him for the rest of the season? And they lost 2 guys tonight, actually. Like, I mean, Mike shouldn't even have been out there probably, with the way he looked and all the reports that I heard about his hamstring. I mean, they're going to be a completely different offense the next how long? I mean, the whole season without Godwin. But if Mike comes back, then at least. But I mean, his hamstring looked bad. I don't know if it's like a deep tissue hammy, like middle of the hamstring, like in the middle part of the muscle belly, or is it at the attachment? If it's at the attachment, dude, he could miss the rest of the season. You know what I mean? So for what? Like to lose a Monday night game to a non-division foe? Like, I don't know, but that's the game that you play. And I was wondering, I was kind of like, man, I know what they're doing. And we have this like, go get it. You never give up. You never but you got to be smart though. Like, you never give up. No, sometimes you do because you live to fight another day.
And we saw this. Who was it that got hurt from the Dolphins? The pass rusher last year when that game was a blowout? Chubb, right? Or
Chubb, Bradley.
Oh, was Bradley Chubb? Was it Bradley Chubb?
They got hurt in the Ravens
It wasn't
game.
Phillips.
Oh, maybe it was Phillips.
I think
maybe it was
Phillips.
Phillips. Oh, Phillips. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
One of them got hurt particularly when the game was well out of hand.
Phillips was the last one.
With Phillips.
Oh.
Okay. Then it was Jalen Phillips who got hurt when the game was well out of hand at that point. There was a lot of criticism towards Mike McDaniel for even having him on the field at that point. And I do get it. This isn't like college football. You don't have a 100-player roster that you can have nothing but. Like, there is a limit to this, but certainly the guys that are impact players, I think your point is well taken, Femi. I'll combine these two. Jacob says, what's Marcus Williams' deal? Bro is stealing money at this point. And I'll combine that with our friend Randy Morgan, who asks, in regards to making an upgrade, wouldn't trading for a safety be cheaper and also very impactful?
I mean, trading for a safety when you're not communicating with the safeties. It doesn't matter who the safety is. If you guys aren't communicating coverages, like people are just standing around talking while the ball's getting snapped, that's a classroom thing. You know what I mean? And in Marcus's case today, Brandon Stevens probably should have carried Mike Williams a little further than he did.
Thank you. Yes.
You know what I
they
mean?
Were beating him down on Twitter, and it was unfair. Yes.
Yeah, so that to me is not a Marcus Williams rode number 1 deep. Like, he can't let the first man get past him. He did his job. Brandon Williams was worried about the flat. Who gives a damn about the flat if a dude behind you is going to score a touchdown? You know what I mean? So I put that on Brandon Williams. I don't put that on
Brandon Stevens.
I'm Brandon Stevens.
We're all having. It's midnight, man. It's midnight.
It's all good. I didn't even have any wine. I'm over here sober as hell.
Hey, and I'm the one that had some bourbon tonight.
I do love Brandon Williams, Ravens legend Brandon Williams.
I love
Brandon Williams.
Hey, by the way, I love Brandon Stevens too. I think he's a hell of a corner. You are definitely. Nobody's in someone's pocket more than that dude.
You have defended Brandon Stevens all season long, but that is fair to call him out when it needs to be called out.
Yeah, that's what I do.
That's the way it works. All right, make your trip to the game easy by saving the Easy Pass waive for tolls. Go to driveeasymd.com. That's driveeasymd.com. So we've reached that point. It is final. Arizona does defeat the Chargers tonight. So week 7 is in the books. The Ravens have won 5 straight. We get to Femi's favorite part of the show. It's time for our top 5 teams. I'm going to put
I'm going last.
Yeah, I don't think we
I'm
can
going
put
last.
Griffin on the spot after what happened last week. I don't think he's prepared, and he'll forget like the Chiefs or something this time around. So Andrew Stecca, you can go on the spot first. Top 5 teams.
Moving into the 5th position is the only team I have different from last week, and that's because the Packers beat the Texans, so
Yep.
they move into the top 5 for me. I'm also like I'm starting to have a little bit of Jordan Love versus CJ Stroud. Maybe that might be a thing. I don't know. CJ Stroud hasn't been pulling up many trees over the last handful of weeks. 4th, I have the Vikings still. I still think they're really good despite the loss to the Lions. They fell from 1 for me. I have the Lions 3rd by virtue of that win, obviously. And then I've got the Ravens 2nd and the Chiefs number 1. That's kind of
that is by the way verbatim. That is the exact top 5 that I have in that order as
Okay,
well.
we can skip you then. We can skip you then. Good.
Yep. KZ.
I have the Steelers at 5.
Woo!
I have Green Bay at 4.
Whoa.
I have Detroit at 3. The Ravens at 2, and the Chiefs at 1.
Minnesota out of his top 5.
Minnesota out of my top 5.
All right, Rita. That's not like what Griffin did last week, where he just forgot that Minnesota existed. That's a purposeful decision by KZ to leave Minnesota out of his top 5.
Who forgot Minnesota existed last week?
Griffin did. He made a top 5.
Okay.
He just
They were
forgot.
on bye. They were on bye, so they
He
don't
just
count.
forgot they were real. Go ahead, Rita.
I got Packers at 5. I'm on the love train. I got Minnesota at 4. I have the Ravens at 3. I have the Chiefs at 2, and I have the at 1. I'm sorry. I know that
You
they're
have Detroit at 1.
Yeah, I can't.
Wow.
Patrick Mahomes is playing so bad. I'm sorry. I can't.
But you can't. Detroit at 1 though. Come on now.
Hey,
they got their ass drugged when they were in Baltimore. They got drugged over here.
That was last year. That's a new
I don't
year,
give a
Femi.
damn.
It's a whole new year
I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. I
year.
can't forget about that loss.
And
They got
St.
drugged.
Brown didn't play in that game either. So I
don't care. I don't care.
I
He
got
wouldn't have
them
made a
as my
difference.
1.
All right,
Ravens
all good.
Ravens don't lose to NFC teams though.
That is true. That is true.
true.
All right.
Except Daniel Jones.
Yeah, that's the one. That is he is the one in 23-1.
Yes.
Go figure. Griffin.
All right.
I really wanted to find a reason to have the Commanders in there, but yeah, I couldn't do it. So I have Minnesota at 5, Green Bay at 4, and then Detroit, Ravens at 2, Kansas City 1.
All right, Femi.
Yeah, I got Washington at 5. I've got Minnesota at 4. I've got Detroit at 3. I got Ravens at 2. I got Kansas City at 1.
Very good. That's our top 5.
Yeah, I feel like Washington and Green Bay would be a real good game.
It'd be a lot of fun. That'd be a lot of fun, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And maybe Houston could think about calling an effing timeout when they're about to lose the football game and see if they can't get the ball back at the end. But I don't care because I got to cover anyway, so I'm good.
Yeah, Houston's been looking a little bit like they've been hanging by a thread lately. You know what I mean?
Look, it was going to hurt them to lose Nico Collins. Like that's
like, everybody loses somebody, man.
I hear you, but
it's the NFL. I don't care about that.
You can't lose your top guy and look the exact same.
No, well, you have Stephon Diggs.
What's the point
you got
of Stephon
Tank
Diggs?
Dell. You got an amazing.
I'm not saying they don't still have good football players. And by the way, if they call their timeouts yesterday, instead of D'Amico Ryan just sitting there and hoping that a guy is going to miss a field goal at the end of the game, they call their timeouts. I still like their chances of going down and scoring and winning the game. It's just that insanely at the end of the game, he just said, "What? There's 40 seconds left. We'll just go ahead and let that time run off the clock."
Nobody has Houston in their top 5 anymore, right? Nobody.
No.
I don't think anybody. Nobody. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No,
there was a lot of Green Bay and Washington. Like that was kind of like the teams that we were.
Yeah, on the edge of that. Well, except for Ken. Ken had Pittsburgh. You were the only Washington.
Yeah, I had Washington as my outskirt.
Ken was the only Pittsburgh. So those are the only. Everybody else at the same 5, just in different orders.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
That was the way it looked.
Man. They're dangerous, dude.
All right. Project Game Day has been made possible by 1-800-GAMBLER. No cost treatment now available for anyone wanting help with a gambling problem. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Don't forget the Arthur Millette Show Wednesday night at the Gourmet. Femi's with us tomorrow morning on GCR, and we will be back with you Sunday following Ravens-Browns. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us tonight. Oh, yeah, right. Lamar Jackson blocking downfield like a psychopath on there. Hell. It's that thing that you love, and then you also say, dude, no, stop it. Stop it. Like, you want him to be willing to do it, just don't actually do it. Like,
Right.
go ahead and run. But then maybe when the block comes, like, get out of bounds. Just get away from it. All right. We will see you guys next Sunday. This has been PressBox.